With the intelligence to be a photographer, social worker, tribal historian, and an artist, it is not a wonder that Neela Nordstrand also composes beautiful poems. In one of her poetry works, 99 Things to Do Before You Die, she talks about a bucket list proposed by the American feminine magazine Cosmo. Instead of taking the suggestion as the magazine proposed, the speaker explores the list with the perspective of her own culture. By searching for analytical elements, such as strands or motifs, binary opposites, and anomalies, one can better understand the message that the poem conveys. In Nordstrand's poem, 99 Things to Do Before You Die, the speaker of the poem expresses her pride and love for her Native American culture while hinting her acceptance of the American culture. The contrast of Native American and American culture in the poem reveals much about the speaker's feeling about each culture. In the poem, the narrator introduces the reader to her encounter with Cosmo magazine, which contains a list of things to do before you die, or simply a bucket list. The subject of the poem, however, comes up with her own version of the list that is more culturally relevant. As one can observe, the new list is mainly based on the Native American culture. Her action to personalize the list to fit her heritage suggests the narrator's pride in her own culture. At the same time, she seemed to not care for the American culture. If we view the Cosmo magazine as a symbolic material for the American culture, the speaker's action may convey the message of opposition. By revising the list proposed by the magazine, she is dismissing the American standards and instead embracing her own. When Nordstrand says, "But the other things were things only rich people could do, and we certainly know you don't have to be rich before you die," she is suggesting the other things are meant for the rich people of the American society. Her inclusive pronoun "we" could be the Native American society as a whole, who knows money is not of importance in their culture. Another example appears when she lists an activity in which she bathe, not swim in a lake or river. While Americans enjoy swimming in a lake or a river, the act of bathing in it would be an unusual activity for an American. However, bathing in a body of water is part of a normal lifestyle of Native American. She suggests her usage of nature as distinction from Americans. Overall, the speaker conveys the preference of her Native American heritage. An interesting anomaly seems to give a new insight on the speaker's general attitude towards the American culture, however. She uses a Native American version of the bucket list to show her preference over the American culture throughout the poem, but the last few lines offer a different perspective. The last 4 lines state, "The Cosmos have an affair in Paris, while discoing in red leather and sipping champagne could find a place on my list." She suggestively accepts one of the proposed activities by the magazine. The subject almost seems to incorporate the American culture into her life, despite her initial impression of rejection. The effect is much more intense because of the fact that the poem concludes with her welcoming the American culture, which contrasts with almost the entire preceding contents of the poem. Another example of the speaker's acceptance of the American culture appears when the narrator wants to fall in love with a white person. The narrator displays an accepting attitude towards American culture. The recurring theme of Native American culture in the poem suggests the narrator's desire to preserve her heritage. The abundance of the Native American traditions mentioned in the poem may be one of her efforts to keep her culture alive. For example, Nordstrand's revised bucket list includes learning to make good fry bread, which is a staple of Native American cuisine. The speaker also wants to tell skinwalker stories by a campfire, a fictional character in the Native American legend. The setting of the situation closely resembles a stereotypical setting for an oral tradition, a way to pass on the cultural traditions and materials. In midst of her list of things to do, the speaker also mentions to learn to speak your language. In the line, she is referring to learning her own people's language. Since the Native American heritage has been drastically reduced and continued to decline, acquiring the language of our own people would mean to retain the important part of the culture in hopes of passing it on to the future generations of the Native Americans. The narrator's desire to sustain her Native American heritage augments her sense of pride and passion for her own heritage conveying from the poem. The simple usage of the Native American motifs serves to convey a much more intricate message within this piece of literary work. The 99 Things to Do Before You Die by Nila Nordström tells much more than a list of things she wishes to do before she dies. The poem delivers the immense pride and love for her own Native American heritage, while also acknowledging American culture as her own. Although the vast majority of the poem implies her indifference towards American conventions, the ending suggests the speaker's acceptance of the American culture by including an activity from the original list proposed by the magazine. However, one should not limit themselves to perceiving the poem to have only a single correct interpretation. One may see, from a different perspective, that Nordström may not be stating her fondness of the American culture at all, but instead satirizing the ignorance of the greedy and unnecessarily luxurious lives of the Americans. The reader should appreciate and enrich their lives to the diversity and acceptance that Nordström is trying to convey.